This is the theme of the week, self-trust. This is the theme of the week, self-trust. When can you trust yourself, and when are you making excuses? This has been a lifelong challenge for me. I don't know about you. I know that I may have an aspiration. I wrote a little stack this week about what happens when you can't wake up. So it would be nice to wake up early. Lately, getting up happens at around 11. And this is due to a number of factors. I suppose one could label those excuses. However, I find volition is key. When you have the volition to do something, I find this to be true for myself. I get it done. I have to really want it. Desire is key. So I think the self-trust and self-honesty may come in when you don't do things and you don't have things. And it's because of actions not taken, mostly because there were counter intentions, there were counter volitions, counter desires. Whatever the reasons are for me not getting to sleep, which involve having to share my bed as a projector, if you're into human design. My husband's a projector too, by the way, and he wears his CPAP machine at night. I tell you, once he gets up for the day, I go starfish, just blah. And that's when the REM happens. And I know I need that sleep. Ergo, getting up at 11:30. If I really, really want to get up earlier, I would have to go against the grain of the family culture, which is not to say that I don't sometimes. However, as I get older, going against the grain of anything has gotten increasingly difficult. So what happens when I can't get up is I get up when I get up. And I look at my agenda. I have usually decided the night before what I want to accomplish the day of. One of the things was creating a live stream. So here I am, for better or worse. I have some technical administrivia to tend to before my appointment with a vendor who I work with at 4 o'clock. So I will tend to that. And so my trust is in fulfilling my agenda. That's what I trust in. If I know I want something and I get it done, in that I trust. If I want something and I don't get it done, there is an inquiry required. Perhaps I entered the task without knowledge of how long it would take. This is often the case for many of my clients. And so I just overpromised in retrospect. Perhaps I was lost in a miasma of hormonal, chemical non-focus, and have allowed myself to be sucked into other people's thoughts via this phone, for instance. In which case, that is the occasion to be honest with oneself. But it is still not the occasion for shame, because I think shame is a product of self-judgment, which is a product of a lack of self-trust. If you omit the shame and simply take out the judgment and apply discernment, then you can look at the past several hours, notice what went on, and perhaps there are a number of reasons why it went down the way it did. Regardless, reset your intention. I reset my intention. I don't know about you, but as a solopreneur, ever since COVID, I've been functioning in my own little silo. And I try to focus on serving your needs, the needs of people who might stumble across my feed. I'm not a mind reader. And I am also human, and I don't think I'm that special. I'm especially not that special because, like everybody else, I want attention. So I take my desires and my needs seriously. And one need I have is to manage my mind so that I am not overwhelmed by self-judgment, shame, and all the other things that do not lead to productivity. They just create a self-perpetuating vortex of inertia. I'm somebody who has had a lifelong struggle with a bipolar disorder. That's a label. They had to come up with a label, in order to give me the chemical assistance I needed. It's not, bipolar 1. But you could also say that it was a lack of knowledge in terms of managing my rhythms, a lack of awareness of the chemical impact of my biology on my rhythms, as well as an ignorance of that in the culture in which I'm immersed, as you are immersed. The culture in which we're immersed cannot always accommodate our rhythms. It took me a long time to decide to use medication as a tool. I've been meditating since I was 16, and that's a lifesaver. That's been a lifesaver, but it's important to know that it's not always enough. And so, in order to participate in the game, in the play of life, I have needed to manipulate my innate biochemistry, chemically. And I was able to get away without doing that and riding the highs as an artist very, very productively for many years. But what it never allowed me to do was make a living. And if you're going to be in this society, if you're going to be in this body, and we've all reincarnated in these bodies, part of adulting is making a living. And of course, I chose probably the hardest profession of all to make a living in, that being show business, theater. So I'm not going to tell this whole story again, but through the course of self-created drama and eventually needing to even myself out enough to focus in on a means of self-support, which turned out to be coaching, because it does utilize, there's so many transferable skills, an ability to communicate, an ability to create a narrative. an ability to help someone else shape their narrative, an ability to respond in the moment to someone else, an ability to feel, to empathize. That I think my theater career prepared me for this occupation, which is certainly a lot steadier and within my control. And being on the medication has given me an additional amount of control. That said, well, I've been stable for a number of years. There are ups and downs. I don't care. I've hit six figures, and you don't just stay there. There are ups and downs in business. Things that work stop working. The culture changes. Uncertainty ensues due to socio-political occurrences on the planet. And I think self-trust comes down to not blaming yourself. If you find yourself in a place of self-blame, you are not trusting yourself. And the way out of it is shifting into curiosity. What's going on? I'm very curious about this inability to have a morning of late. I've been having very deep dreams. I've also been dealing more in the woo and bringing it into my practice. I do tarot, and sometimes a client, we will work through a few problems, and then the client's not sure what to do with the rest of their time. And because coaching is non-directive, it's not consulting. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I will offer the tool of tarot. And so we will do a tarot reading in response to an issue the client has. And it's very clarifying. I think as I approach the end of this mortal coil this time around, I'm very interested in other planes of existence. So I've studied theta healing and started immersing myself in that. And angel readings. And I do believe that we work things out on many different levels. So again, I don't think it's an excuse. Out of my curiosity, I've begun to wonder about those dreams that I have. Probably once my husband leaves the bed and I get to starfish and take up my space at around between 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. And this morning I had one. I am struck in my dreams by how physically energetic I am. I was running around in a space that reminded me of a place called the Jewish Community Center in New Haven, Connecticut. This was a place that existed in the 50s, 60s, and 70s on Chapel Street. Now it's probably something else. But there was a community space in which I was going to have a reading of a play I wrote a number of years ago. And there was a confluence of pride, gratitude, and anxiety about this, what was about to ensue. And the people in charge of security needed to know who was going to be there. There are a number of factors I find fascinating about this dream. The fact that it was in the Jewish Community Center. The fact that there is a sense of overall insecurity in the world, and that as a Jew, I feel I'm being sometimes used as an ideological human shield against cruelties, over-the-top cruelty happening in the Middle East and in my name. So I think there's that going on, molded in. So who's going to be at your reading? We need to have names on lists. And so people started filing in who I didn't know to see the reading. What strikes me is many of them were Black. And as I told the people there, I didn't advertise this. This was word of mouth. People were filing in who I didn't know. And I was asking, are you here for the reading? Some of them said no. Are you here for the reading? Yes, I'm here for the reading. And they would put their name on the list. Now, fast forward to being awake. For the first time in my life, I wondered, was this my dream? I wonder if someone somewhere else on the planet was in that dream with me, having it. Those people I didn't recognize. Those of the various cultures on the line, some of whom were here and so, to see the reading, and some of whom who weren't. And I wonder if upon awakening they asked themselves, I had the weirdest dream. I was online at this community space, and there was this very officious little purple-haired woman running around. Maybe in the dream it was purple, I don't know if it was. But she seemed pretty nice, and she wanted to know if I was there for the reading, and I wasn't. I don't know why I was there, but I said, yeah, sure. Wouldn't that be amazing if I was working something out along with other people on this plane of the dream, in the dream plane? I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on the 7 planes of existence yet. I don't know where the dreams happen. But there's so much that we don't understand. And I think I needed to stay in bed to have that dream. And I've learned as a coach, you don't overextend yourself. You don't overpromise so that you underdeliver. If you can possibly avoid it, sometimes there are things out of your control, shit happens, or you underestimate, as I said earlier. However, of late, I've started to think I am beginning to become cognizant of these other levels of functioning that are happening beyond my body, which is why when I wake up, I don't know about you, but lately I am in a sleep paralysis. Did you know that when you go to sleep, when you get into that really deep state, you are literally physically in a state of paralysis? You couldn't move your body if you wanted to. Now, I'm not a lucid dreamer, right? I don't know that I'm dreaming when I'm dreaming. I'm there. Wherever it is, that's where I am. So upon awakening lately, noticing how, oh man, I am not just on top of this mattress. I feel like I am buried in it. I can't move. It takes me quite a bit of time to re-enter the vessel. And eventually I do, and I get up and go about my business. But this is something that I think maybe came out of COVID. There's a lot more isolation. This is something that came out of the way we are engaging with each other now. And I see there are 5 people out there watching me bloviate, and I thank you for that. If you type a message in, I will probably see it after the fact. I'll try to see it. I don't focus shift too well, but we are having to develop new ways to connect. And I think those new ways to connect may be happening through the etheric body, may be happening digitally this way. A woman flagged me down on the street the other day, Rahti! And she looked familiar, and I said, okay, I know. She's a client, and we've never met in person. And I knew exactly who it was. But it was something to meet someone in the flesh who I'd never met in person, and to know them. This is a woman who has shared significant struggles. Just kicked the tripod, sorry. Significant struggles in her own life with me. And so I know her, but we've never met in person, IRL. So I really enjoyed having that, real, quote, real life material connection with her out on the street. And I'm very grateful she recognized me. However, I think there is a dark side to everything and a light side to everything. There's a lot of fixation on the dark side, of, virtual reality and digital progress and AI. However, we need to, while there should be oversight, we also need to focus on the light side. How are we connecting, and how can we leverage more connection in the name of prosperity, health, satisfaction? From a place of self-trust. You got to make up your own rules. My rule is I wake up when I wake up. And as long as I do what I say I'm going to do the night before, I've lived the life I was supposed to live that day. And I trust that. I do some reflection in the evening. I highly recommend that. I highly recommend stopping, pausing to be grateful for the little things. But I am a staunch advocate against shame and self-judgment. I mean, I have to assume that the good people here, those who come across my videos, if they don't want to do me harm, they are of a similar ilk. They are kind. They are kind people. They want, within their power, to put positive energy out into the world. So that's you. I know it is. And kindness starts with the self. Don't sap your energy with abnegation. Don't sap your energy with self-judgment. Get curious about how you roll, and know that there are levels of consciousness, your unconscious, your subconscious, that are acting on your behalf, on the planet's behalf. It's not just about us. Again, I wonder who those other folks were in my dream and what we were working out together. So, what happens when you can't get out of bed? Trust. Once you're up, trust. Move forth in trust. Thanks for hanging with me. I'll be back next Thursday. I decided Thursday I'm doing lives, so I'll see you then.